Hello, good morning. Welcome to the webinar of Deloitte Digital and Salesforce about marketing technology and the role of marketing and how to improve the efficiency of marketing activities. Thank for all the attendees that have joined us and the ones which are most probably also join us in the next couple of minutes. Today with us, apart from myself, we're also going to host Natalia Zalecka from Deloitte Digital, Deloitte Poland, Christian Michalka from Salesforce, and Alexander Ursuk from Salesforce. And maybe before we start, I would just ask Christian and Alexander to present themselves shortly. We're still waiting for Natalia to join, and then I will present myself as well. Christian, can you start?
Hi everybody, Christian Michalka. I'm covering enterprise accounts in Adriatic region and Central Eastern Europe for Salesforce. I'm with Salesforce since more than 2 years now, managing the relationship with the customers in all industries across the region. Very happy to be here with you today. And hopefully we can present you some interesting information around the current world and the new reality that we are living in. Alex?
Okay. And hi everybody, this is Alex Ursu, also from Salesforce. Thank you very much, Christian. I'm mainly focused on the commercial side for Salesforce digital marketing for the Adriatic region. So this is everything that is digital marketing channels related from Salesforce. I've been working with this region for the past 4 to 5 years, and yeah, as Christian was mentioned, we're very happy to give you any insights that we've seen throughout the past months and years, and just have an open conversation about all these topics. So thank you very much, and thank you very much, Mitya, for organizing this and the Deloitte team.
Thank you. My name is Mitya Pirts. I'm from Deloitte Ljubljana office, covering also the Adriatic region. I've been working in topics related to strategy and marketing and sales for a number of years. And we're still waiting for Natalia, so when she joins, she can present herself. So what I would like to maybe spend 1 or 2 minutes also giving you a bit of insight what Deloitte is. We are offering a number of support services to our clients. When it comes to Deloitte Consulting, we operate in strategy operations. As one of the pillars, human capital, and obviously as technology, but also Salesforce would come in. When it comes to Deloitte Digital in the Central and Central Europe, we have over 150 colleagues which are exclusively focused on the digital solutions, ranging from customer experience, content management, obviously Salesforce as well, solutions design, and also the implementation and running solutions. And also Natalia is coming from part of Deloitte. I would invite now Christian to give us a bit of introduction into Salesforce as a firm and the offerings as well.
Sure. Salesforce is one of the biggest enterprise software companies globally. Basically, the strength of Salesforce is that we are covering everything related with customer engagement, everything between you as a company and your customers. And of course, as we've seen in the especially in the last few months, the shift to digital, it's happening quickly. And that's why Salesforce created the Customer 360, a completely digital first platform to meet the needs of the new digital reality. At the core of the Customer 360 is your customer, which is now probably completely digital. We believe that everything should be centered around the customer. That's why your sales, your service, marketing, e-commerce, analytics, everything you do, it's centered around the customer needs. And you have a single source of truth with a unique profile across all the customer touchpoints. Another big advantage is the fast time to value. We've built our core technologies like mobile, artificial intelligence, workflows, communities, voice at the highest level of security into every app that sits on our platform. So you can leverage the newest technologies and innovations quickly. But we know that technology is not just something that we are used. It's actually, in our opinion, a platform for change. The greatest platform for change. And we've been giving back to help those in need. At Salesforce, we believe that we can help all stakeholders, meaning the customers, employees, partners, and the broader community of what we are calling Trailblazers. For example, we are supporting our community by donating over 50 million pieces of personal protection equipment to hospitals. We've donated more than 23 million to frontline organizations during this health crisis. We are partnering with companies like Amazon to help the communities to set up virtual contact centers for free. We are partnering with other big organizations like Apple and Google. And we provide online learning resources to help customers and teachers to adjust to the new learning at home environment. These are just a few things about Salesforce, and we are here for you for everything else you need to know about Salesforce and what we are doing globally and of course in our countries.
Okay, thank you, Christian. Let's move on to the agenda for today. So today's webinar is structured around 4 topics that we're going to be discussing. For each of the topics, we are going to have a couple of introductory slides just to set the stage, and then the idea is that we have the panelists comment on each of the dimensions that are relevant either because of the corona situation or because of the technologies that we are using. So the first topic is centered around consumers, so how consumers have changed in the last couple of weeks and months. Second topic is related to how marketing technologies can be used in order to increase effectiveness, efficiency of marketing activities. The third one is mainly focused on what are the key challenges in implementing and running these kind of solutions to deliver the actual business results. And we'll conclude with the last one, what can firms do in the next couple of weeks or months to benefit most. As we know, we live in turbulent times, with a lot of uncertainty, and there are a lot of open questions that we need to answer in weeks to come. So if we start with the first topic, one of the things that we've seen is that a number of categories, a number of industries have suffered a lot in the last couple of weeks and months. Obviously, the airlines, tourism, also clothing were hit a lot. 2 big winners of the situation were gaming and video streaming, as we've been spending a lot of time inside food delivery and grocery. Particularly the e-commerce side were also extremely strong. Home improvement is also a winner because we are spending a lot of time in our homes, and we would like to make them more comfortable or fix certain things that we've never managed to fix before. And an interesting thing that happened is because we are spending a lot of time inside the computer as a means of access to digital channels has gained a lot. So this is an interesting change in the last couple of weeks and months. What we see is that some of the effects that have happened in the last couple of weeks are going to stay with us. So we have a generation which have already been digital natives from the day they were born, to also elderly or more mature segments of the population also getting digital really rapid in the last couple of weeks, from e-commerce using banks, telecom solutions, etc. What we expect is that Q2 is still going to be problematic because of different measures that are going to take in place and a lot of uncertainty. Q3 and Q4 are the quarters to watch in terms of recovery. Obviously, this is under the assumption that that no major waves, 2 or 3, are going to emerge in the next weeks and months to come. Another very important aspect is that the supply chains are going to be impacted also for the long run. We see a lot of opinions that the supply chains are going to become more regional and that they're going to function in different ways. And lastly, we've also seen already in the last months or years a shift in the growth strategies of companies. Still, the prevalent growth strategies relate to marketing penetration and product and service development. But given the situation that we are in, the market development is gaining a lot, and the diversification of products and services are the ones which are going to be very much interesting for a number of companies also in the months and years to come. This was a brief intro. Maybe we can have a now discussion on these topics. How have consumers changed? What skills, competencies have consumers and employees also developed? Do we see the digital as a dominant channel also in next weeks? And also the change in how we perceive ourselves and what are our biggest concerns and how it's going to change our value systems and daily habits. And Christian, Alexander, can I ask you maybe to give your perspective also from the wider region area?
Yeah, if I can start, so definitely what you presented before, we've seen in our experience with the customers in the region and globally. We see shoppers that now use a mix of digital touch points along the buying journey. For example, in the discovery phase and evaluation part of the journey, search engines, social media feeds, influencers are popular ways to help people to want to buy and to decide, to get the inspiration outside of the brand's properties. In the buying part of the journey, there are new types of purchase points emerge. Mobile wallets are behind email as place to make purchases, for example. And 40% of the shoppers are making purchases through social media, for example, and these numbers are increasing. But in the meantime, the customers still face silos across the channels. There is a gap between the customer expectation and the reality. Customers are accessing multiple touch points during the purchase, but there is a significant disconnect within the companies between these channels. 75% of the customers expect consistent interactions across all departments, and big part of them, 58%, say that they feel they are communicating with separate departments and not with one company and one brand. And when it comes to service issues, 70% of the customers expect all of the reps to have the same information about them. So everybody, all of us, we had this situation when we are calling a call center about a problem, and then if we call the next day, we'll start all over again with discussing the situation and presenting all the data and everything. So this is clearly an expectation that it's increasing in these days. Digital sales, of course, becomes more and more attractive. It's even more attractive that in holiday period now, with this crisis when everybody it's working from home or staying at home. We see digital sales grow by 80% in first quarter of this year compared with the same quarter last year, and of course traffic growth by 30%. And these are data for Europe. It's not global. Desktop, as you said, desktop it's coming back. Desktop traffic increased by 9% this quarter compared the first quarter of this year compared with last year. And another trend that was already present, increasing, but now it's even more increasing, is the traffic from social media. It's growing quickly. And especially now, as I said before, this is turning into a buying channel for products and services. These are some of the statistics. Of course, there are many, but this shows that digital online is the new reality. And if companies want to sell and to attract customers, they have to be there and have to offer a seamless engagement with the customers throughout the sales process on the channels customers prefer.
Okay, but I mean, maybe Alex, you can also add some comments on this.
Yeah, so listen, from our experience so far in the new world, a question like currently digital is no longer a question mark of if, but the question now is asked is how fast, because pretty much everyone has shifted from using digital as a side channel to being the only channel. And this is especially affecting the retail world right now, because we are talking about customers who are now relying solely on digital. And the main challenge that I've seen in the past months is to actually be able to reach to your consumers with a unified experience, because so far a lot of companies, when it comes to marketing and branding, they have been able to drive let's say the whole experience in the offline world, and sometimes trying to make things catch up on the online world. But nowadays we're talking about unification of a brand across every channel that we're talking about. So it's actually taking everything that a brand is perceived as from the offline world where this was set into the online. And this is where we're talking about that this needs to be seamless, because for me as a consumer, when I'm speaking with a supermarket chain online, I want to have the same experience that I would have as buying from the store actually. I need to have the same understanding, and I want to be known as a customer the same way that would happen with me in a store. So personalization is one of the key points for customers. And as well, what Christian was mentioning, I think this is another key point, is trust, because during these times I need to trust that you can provide me with what I need, when I need it, and the way that I need it. If there was any other time that this type of personalization in the engagement and delivery was ever needed, this is now the time.
Okay. Maybe just to remind all the attendees of the webinar that you can ask questions either related to the topic that we are currently discussing or in general. I mean, we have a good panelists here who can maybe provide you with some insights, and if we're not covering certain areas that you're interested in, we still have time to go into this. Okay. We are still missing Natalia, so we're gonna move on then. If we move to the second part related to how marketing technologies can be used, I would now ask Christian to use this slide by Salesforce to give us the insight of all the touch points, all the areas, all the activities that technologies can be used, and maybe we're not even thinking about using them today.
Yeah,
Alex, would you take this?
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, Alex. Yeah.
Sure.
No problems. Yeah. So what we're talking about here, because we were talking about the experience, this is a typical type of an experience that a consumer that we would have when purchasing something, right? Because this is what is happening. We're talking about multiple points that you are engaging in your buying process, right? So we're talking about a situation where we're first being aware of a brand, we're first being aware of the products that they have, then we're going into our own research, which is this commerce part where we're going on the web, we're looking for information. Then we're talking about, once I give you something like an email address or a phone number, how can you actually provide to me some information which is relevant and to convince me to become your customer, right? So once I become a customer, then we're talking about this whole personalization. And then we're talking about how this also moves into a customer engagement. So we've become a customer, we've made our first purchase, then how can we personalize the post-sale experience? And this is where we're talking about being able to engage with consumers on social channels, being able to have, as Christian was mentioning, service which is personalized on my needs. So the point is, let's say from a strategy perspective, there's a very long road, and it's a never-ending path, I would say, for a consumer from before and after, like let's say before sales, post sales. And then the other point, which is extremely important here, is from a Salesforce perspective, what we aim to do, and this is what Christian was also mentioning with the customer 360, is to give like a unification of all these points. Because as everybody's aware, there are multiple sets of technologies throughout the world that can do some specific pinpoints. Everything that you see here, for example, can be tackled in a single tool with a single data set. But the question would be that we're talking about almost 15 steps, which means you would have 15 tools, which means you would have 15 sets of data that would then need to be unified to actually get an understanding of who the customer actually is. And if let's say 10 years ago people were struggling with data, this is no longer the problem. We're actually generating huge amounts of data. The question is, how do we understand what is relevant from this data to know our customers better? And this is when the whole customer 360 is the point to unify multiple areas of engagement from a data perspective, and to be able to action this data, let's say from at a unified level. So when customer service opens up the sheet of a customer, they can know what they've done on marketing, what they've done in sales, and the same would go with marketing. They would understand if a customer is unhappy, maybe we should suppress some marketing communication from them because we need to get them into a happy mood before we try to sell them more. So this is where the whole value of the Salesforce platform would come in.
Okay. If we move now, Natalia joined. Hi, Natalia. Okay. If we move a bit further, it's one of the topics or one of the perspectives that Alex already touched upon. In the last 10 years, we've seen an extremely big growth of marketing technology solutions. This is from Chief Martech overview. They do it once a year. So if in 2011 we had 150 different types of solutions, in 2020 it's 8,000, and it's one of the challenges how and what to pick from the overall landscape. The second interesting thing is that the marketing technology spending has also grown in the last years, and it's now typically on par with media spending or people labor spending. A lot of companies are still not at this level, but it is the direction, and it is a trend that we are seeing in the last years to come. A very important perspective when choosing technologies is also the maturity of the organization. Some organizations are just starting, and perhaps different kind of technologies or approaches or improvement opportunities exist for them. The ones that are already somewhere in the middle can do something else, and they move more into optimizing and scaling. We also have examples of companies which are already moved to the one-to-one type of engagement with their customers and are operating in a fully integrated type of a solution. And it is important to understand where you are in order to pick the right solutions and also focus on the right things. Having said that, I will now again open up discussions to everybody, including Natalia. I hope she can join now. So I would maybe ask you for some more concrete examples of how marketing technology can be used to either drive customer acquisition, lead creation, engagement, brand building, also where to start, and the last two questions, which are mostly related to how to convince the management, the board members that it's a proper decision to invest into marketing technologies, and also the role that marketing or CMOs should play in this whole area.
Just as a general observations, we see that companies that are the fastest and more flexible in adapting to this new reality will have definitely a huge advantage in the market and will become industry leaders. The others will have to follow. And marketing is essential in this race to be recognized as market leader. It brings more business, new customers, and more importantly, it creates and strengthens the customer loyalty to the brand. There are a couple of main points around this. Market from home. With this lockdown that we've seen for the last 2 months, It's important to be able to deploy campaigns quickly from home, to collaborate across teams, to keep marketers engaged with the applications. Also, it's important to engage customers with empathy, to listen to your customers, use real-time data to better understand their current situation and their needs. Also personalize digital communications, accelerate digital channels adoption, both internally within the company and also with the customers. Deliver the right message to the right person at the right time, as we said before. And of course, it's important.
Christian, can you maybe give some more concrete examples? You know, it could be retail, banking, telco, or some other industries. If you can be a bit more specific, or maybe you, Alex.
Yeah. So this personalizing of the message, of the marketing message to the customers was a trend that we've seen before, but now it's even more important. So for example, probably not in our region that prominent, but most of us, we've traveled until recently throughout airports all over Europe and maybe all over the world. In most of the countries, at least in, let's say, Western Europe, US, there is this personalized message that follows you even when you are traveling, for example. So you get the same interaction from the brand that you are, interested in or you are working with, regardless if you are traveling, if you are staying at home, if you are, I don't know, using your smartphone or using your desktop or using social media, right? So it's very important that you receive the same message consistently throughout all these channels, and you receive this message, and that the company knows when you are using, for example, your smartphone, or when you are working in an office and using your desktop, or when you are, in the evening browsing on social media, and you basically, ideally, you'll get the same message on every channel that you are engaging with at the right time. So this is something that companies are doing, and we have examples like this. We have customers like Adidas, for example, that is doing this. So Adidas basically gave up on the TV and radio marketing, right? So they're doing everything online now, and this helped them increase their online sales with huge numbers. And this is only one example of company that adapted to the new reality. I'm not talking just, the last few months, I'm talking the last few years, actually. But it's clear that now with this situation that we are all in, this only increases.
Yeah, just to add my 2 cents here on this whole part from a marketing standpoint, I think the areas of the customer journey, as you were mentioning there, like pretty much all the areas where you're engaging with customers can be, you can use digital marketing. And just to give you a point, like acquisition is one of the points where you can use strategies such as finding lookalike audiences for new customers. And we can do this type of lookalikes on multiple social networks nowadays, whether we're talking about Google or Facebook or LinkedIn or let's say Instagram. When we're talking about the actual customer engagement, that's where you can actually use marketing technology for sending messages across multiple channels. So we're talking about, historically, the most efficient one would be email, if you have the consent. We're talking about SMS. We can talk about communication platforms such as Viber, which is more common in the AWS, or WhatsApp. We can talk about, for example, social messaging, like showing them a specific message on an ad that's personalized on a segment. So all these areas, these are layers of marketing technology that you can use. And the next, let's say, the next level of personalization would be what's happening now as a new trend, is the web and mobile push. Because we talk about the online unknown people that are coming on websites, but also mobile push can be a way to personalize an engagement from somebody who's using a mobile app. So these points, having a tool that can actually send messages on these points is going to be relevant. What also is extremely useful as technology for this customer journey is omni-channel orchestration, which means basically being able to send on the right channel the right message to a person. So as Christian was mentioning, if I'm more prone to be on my phone, then if you've learned this behavior about me, you will put me in a journey that sends more SMS and mobile push rather than email, because you know this is what keeps me engaged. Now, if we're talking about, these are multiple, so many areas that you can actually talk about marketing. And then we go through the classical examples of retargeting, of remarketing, where you can use your existing data about your consumers to actually find campaigns that would be useful for them, either to let's say, continue engagement to ensure that the customers are engaged with the brand, or potentially to find ways that they can benefit of other services that you have. For example, if you know somebody has purchased a specific product, and you would kind of create an affinity model to understand what might be the best recommended thing, is to target them with what would be in their benefit and what could be as a benefit for you as a marketer. Because let's not kid ourselves, this is what we've been discussing over the past 3 months. As marketers, we still have a duty to promote our products, but at the same time to be mindful. So nobody says we completely need to disregard our main focus, which is to promote our brands, our products, what we do. But this needs to be done in a mindful and a more personalized way than before, because people are not just interested about you, they want to understand what is you in the context of me, as you were actually mentioning before. So I think this is where we talk about this. Now, when you're talking about where to start, listen, at this point, as I was mentioning, the question is how fast. The question is not where or how. So there are, let's say, you can start by having a model of data about what your customers are. For example, information about them, such as a first name, a last name, an email address, all these demographics you can use. Then choose to have like a platform to help you send messages based on this information that you have before, and then continuously engage throughout the process. So I would say you can start off with something simple like a uni-channel approach, which is, for example, just sending SMS or just sending email or just sending push. And then as you see the engagement, and if you're talking about multi-channel, you can step on adding on multiple channels and then adding on multiple layers of engagement. So that's what I would see from this point of view. And when it comes to the value and the benefits, I guess I'm looking at this as a technology vendor perspective. So it's let's say I'm not in the best position here to talk about this because I'm not completely neutral. But what we aim to do when it comes to marketing from this point of view, and this is what most of the board members are doing right now with marketing, is having an accountable model of marketing, because it's actually being able to not only engage but also see the results, because this is what historically people want to understand. And it's not only, for example, what is the cost per click, what is the conversion rate, but understanding how much business you're actually getting from specific campaigns and making sense of what works and what doesn't. So the benefit is actually understanding what is the ROI, understanding how your brand perception works, and what is the actual dollar benefit that your company would see. So
Okay.
that would be my take on all these items.
Okay. Thank you,
And
Alex.
definitely the CMOs and the marketing directors will have to echo what Alex said. So it's important that they are able to convince the management and the board and the owners of the companies that basically marketing department is not anymore just a cost department, right? So it's just not something that you put the money in and you don't really know what happens afterwards. Now you have to monetize the marketing department so it becomes a center for profit, and it can shows how money was spent and what benefits are bringing back to the company.
Okay. Maybe we can also invite Natalia. Natalia, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah, that's great. You can see me. Yes, I've heard that you can see me. I'm so sorry that I'm late, but I have some technical issues and I had to switch from my computer to my phone, and that's why you can only hear me. But here I am, and I want to say hello to everybody, and I'm sorry once again.
Can you perhaps comment on the current topic that we're discussing on where and how marketing technologies can be used in order to boost marketing activities? We've also discussed how to introduce the benefits to the board members, what the role of marketing should be. Can you comment a bit on this?
Yes, of course. A month ago, I was a CMO in one of the Polish banks, so I hope that I can give you this perspective. And I agree that the most important thing is to show your numbers. So you have to drive revenue response and show your numbers. Show your impact on sales by acquiring new customers, by upsell and cross-sell. Or just you can deliver new distribution channels. So from the perspective of the organization, marketing is now not perceived as a cost, but it could be perceived as a business unit. And for sure, the digitalizations give us this opportunity. COVID, I will say that COVID is a wake-up call for organizations that have placed too much focus on daily operational needs instead of investing in digital business. Nowadays, customers are spending less, so it is critical for marketers to narrow their focus on segments which brings you the best revenue generation.
Okay, can you perhaps maybe give some more practical examples of what you've done in the past, perhaps, or some experiences from Poland?
Yes, I was a marketing director in a bank, and I have to say that we didn't have, very complicated marketing automation tools, but we are trying to do it on a different levels. So for sure, I would say that the light version is to create emails, which could help you to increase the efficiency of your communication. So the simple tools like retargeting, for example, and also you can divide your clients into your clients which you have in your base and the prospect clients, and it's easier to you to show numbers on your own clients. So it's better to start with this group. That's my perspective, because you can very, very quickly show the effects.
Okay, thank you. Let's move to the next topic, which is something that we've already touched upon a bit. What are the key challenges? One of the things that you've all mentioned already, that it has to be a holistic approach. The integration with IT and business needs to be strong. There has to be support from the management, cooperation between different departments, etc. So it really needs to be a transformative perspective on marketing technology itself. You've also mentioned that it should be about business. It's not about technology. We haven't touched upon the talent and the competences yet, but it really is going to work if we change the way how we do business. We have discussed a bit about the marketing technology ecosystem, the portfolio of technologies. There is a lot of time discussions whether you take best of breed or you go for some sort of a seamless integrated solution. It was already pointed out by Alex the importance of this. So things that work, things that don't work are listed in this slide. One of the interesting things is that in most cases, 74% of times, marketing is the one who is driving the adoption of marketing technology. There are various different ways how it's done. Either it's alone or in collaboration with IT, but it is seen as a primary driver of actually bringing this to life. And the last intro slide into this section is related to the skills and the people, because technology is one thing, but if you don't have the right skills and people in place to do this, then it's not going to work. This is from one of the researches done with what CEOs want from their people, data analytics as tech-related skills are on top of this digital technology and marketing, the digital part of it as well. What is really interesting is that marketing as a general skill set is leading the top of non-tech specific skills. So if we enter now into discussing what are then the roadblocks. So we've discussed, what are all the benefits, why we should do it, and obviously there is a consensus that we should move in this direction. But what do you see as top 3-5 challenges? Why things don't work once we try to implement the technologies or use them, show results? We've also discussed, balancing quick wins versus long-term strategic perspective, and also the collaboration between different departments. And maybe Natalia, we can start with you this time.
Yeah, of course. So as a marketer, I have to say that marketers use between 6 to 10 different MarTech solutions, such as automation, social media monitoring, and things like that. And it is too much. So that's the first obstacle, that you have to coordinate a lot of tools with with different goals and so on. So the one thing is that you should think about consolidation and about integration. So where it's possible, consider buying tools that combine several functions into one platform rather than separate tools for each. Why? You mentioned the people. It is hard to have people who know everything. So first of all, you have to have the technology, which is quite easy to deal with it, but then you have to train your people, and this is very, very important. And last but not least, marketing technology itself won't guarantee greater efficiency or better result. You have to have this strategy for this tool. So just use these tools which you need. Don't try to have everything, and don't try to understand everything, because it's impossible.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Alex?
Yeah, so listen, like from my point of view, actually the biggest challenge that we've seen so far, and this is where we all start as a challenge, is to second what Natalia was saying, is the biggest challenge is also the biggest looked after thing, data, because every part of marketing digitally starts with data. And as you've seen, like what C-level people are looking is for people that can actually make sense of their data, understand what data means, what does a data model look like, how does it work for a company. And just think about, like 5 years ago, we never heard about a chief data officer. We actually have this role nowadays in any organization which is large. So the fact of understanding data is, I would say, the number one challenge, because there's, like, if you look at all the presentations nowadays, everybody's saying data is the new oil, right? Because this is the source of revenue that you can get. So that would be the number one challenge. The next one that I would address, as Natalia was mentioning, is this whole disconnected, let's say, approach, because people need to make sense of a marketing strategy going across channels. Like you would do in the offline world, you don't expect to have a different look, and like you want to have a similar look and feel on all the channels that you're looking for to have this proper thing. And this is a challenge because, as mentioned, you would work with 3, 5, 7, 10 different tools that have a different way of engagement or a different creative way of showing this. So it's another point that we have there.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, like, the other topic that I see, in the region mostly, and this is more, it's a mix of strategy and technology, is the actual, let's say, personalization. Because I would say, from my experience with this industry and this region for the past 5 years, we're slowly transitioning from let's say a type of like, the push and pull marketing type of situation, where we were more focused on promoting ourselves than understanding what the customer wanted. So
Mm-hmm.
we're slowly seeing a transition from a newsletter model, right, where you're sending newsletters about what you do, regardless of whether the customer wants to know about everything that you do or like a small bit or this, to a point where we're personalizing communication. And GDPR and consent has had like an impact on this as well,
Mm-hmm.
based off preferences. So The other challenge that we're talking about is this personalization, which is also leading the engagement, because if I'm not if I'm not happy with what you're sending me, I will just unsubscribe, and you can no longer pester me, so to speak, with messages that are not relevant for me as a consumer. So this is a challenge that we can talk about. And let's say the strategy part of this would be the fact that most of the companies are shifting from like a product-oriented strategy towards a customer-oriented strategy. And that's why in the last 5 years we've been seeing this, a huge increase of new words like customer experience, customer engagement. Everybody is full of all this stuff. The question is, what's behind every big word that we're using? So when we're saying customer experience, are we having a strategy about how to put the customer on top, and what they do is relevant for us to modify our strategy, or are we still trying to move customers towards what we do as a company? So I think this is where I would see this as a challenge. And quick wins versus long-term strategic developments, this is right now what is happening, because most of the companies right now are looking to find this sort of like silver bullet that can help you plug and play something. If I need to be realistic, there is no silver bullet. Like you can start and still have communication happening, like engage with customers. That's something that you need. But long term, definitely, what I would urge everybody who's working on this side, on the strategic level, not technology wise, because technology would come and play with this, is to define what does a customer mean. I think this is the main point. And when we're saying what does the customer mean, more technically, I'm speaking about what does the data model look like for me as a company? What information am I collecting about my customers? What is important for me to collect? What is not? And how do I get this information to start a meaningful conversation? So that's what I would say. So it's a mix of strategy and technology. And honestly, the other point which I wanted to address there is also my experience on this from the industry is there is no silver magic wand in technology that can replace strategy. That will just not exist. You can collect all the data in the world. You can collect everything about your customer from your website, e-commerce, SMS, mobile push, everything. You can collect all of this nowadays. The question is what works, what doesn't, and how you define what you're collecting, and that's where strategy comes into play. So both of them need to work hand in hand. You define the strategy, you understand what you aim to do, and then you put this and you take technology models and you're saying, how does this work with me? Does this work better? Does this that's how you're doing this. Because and another point actually to what Natalia was mentioning, I think this is another shift that we're seeing from a strategic standpoint, is this model where historically a lot of companies were working with external agencies and they completely outsource the whole marketing process, where this is being dragged more in-house nowadays. And that's where you also need to start working on the strategic level, because it's not something that you're just like handing it to somebody else and you see the results. It's something that you're driving yourself.
Okay, Christian, maybe a short comment also from your side.
Just the things. I want to stress out the importance of the collaboration between the departments within the company. Of course, IT it's important. It's there to support the business departments and to be flexible and to adapt to the needs coming from business. But it's very important to have a consolidated approach throughout the channels, and it's very useful and gives you a huge advantage to use as much as possible, one single platform for collaboration between these departments in the engagement with the customer. So nobody wants to, run a campaign, send some marketing messages to a customer that has 2 cases open with the customer service center, right? Or the salesperson, he wants to know what marketing campaigns were targeting the customer that he wants to sell to, or he wants to know if the customer he's selling to has any issues with the companies or with the brand. So everything has to be in one single view of that customers available to all these departments. And just one small note about quick wins balancing long-term strategies. So even if, especially now in this current market situation, even if you go for some quick wins, for some low-hanging fruits, some small projects that will prove the validity of the solution you choose, even if you start with this while you have a long-term vision, a roadmap. Because then if you just focus on these small wins, then it turn out that 2 years from now you will have, I don't know, 20 small, solutions, applications that are not communicating with each other. So you start with defining the vision, the strategy, the roadmap, and then you can choose to start small, right? But it will be along this journey that you already set.
Okay, thank you. Now let's move to the very last part, which is related to what can firms do in the next couple of weeks and months. We have already touched upon this a bit briefly, but if we can be a bit more concrete, particularly because we have seen that in the last 2 months, firms were mostly in the response phase, trying to ensure business continuity, dealing with employees, dealing with healthcare challenges, etc. We see a number of firms entering now phase 2, recovering, learning what has happened, adapting, emerging stronger. This is also the point of our discussion today. And then in the next quarter, most probably we're going to go into the thrive phase, where firms are going to adjust into the new normal. What has Deloitte and Salesforce done is we have prepared possible scenarios. There are 4 that have been identified, depending on how severe the pandemic is and also how well the countries are going to collaborate together or are going to close down. If we're going to stay in the lower left corner, then we're going to be better off as a society. But other scenarios still exist because we don't know what's going to happen in the next month if crisis from the pandemic side, healthcare related, is going to emerge again, and we'll have to go into the lockdown. We also don't know what's going to happen with geopolitics on a global or regional level. These are all the kind of tensions that emerge. So companies tend to look at the different scenarios. So if we enter now in the last part, maybe we can start again with Natalia. So what do you see that companies should do in the next weeks or months, particularly because there is a pressure of this uncertainty, and at the same time the management is putting a lot of pressure on costs and profitability, and obviously marketing budgets in general can be under a lot of pressure. So what would be your take? What can we do in the next weeks or months, because we can't just stand idle?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I will say that nowadays time is crucial. Real-time marketing wasn't ever so important. So we need tools that help us react immediately. Information mass, changes in customer service, new rules of operation establishment from day to day. All of this needs to be coordinated. So you need tools to do it, and you need to change your organization, I mean your department, your people, to deal with this issue. The other thing is the consistency. Because around the world is a lot of mess, a lot of things is going on, so consistency plays an important role in your customer experience. Consistency is how companies convey their message across touch points, but also consistency is how they interact, guide your clients, and so on. So from my point of view, these 2 things, like dealing with time, with the real-time marketing, and trying to be consistent in communication, it's very important.
Okay, Alex, maybe your point of view on this.
I was pretty much aligned also with Natalia. I think what she's mentioning about the next actions is relevant. What I would put on top of this is to be able to have let's say a unified approach when it comes to the campaign. So what I've seen so far is a lot of the companies have switched to going full online, and they basically associated all their efforts to going on this, and they are, let's say that this whole personalization has been in a benefit, because what we've seen in the past couple of months is, for example, to be able to target people on a specific keyword that you had before is more expensive than now, because a lot of people are actually using that keyword. So finding fine tunes on your campaigns can yield better results of how you're spending money for marketing budget and how you're getting results from for people from this point of view. And actually, there was a question that I just noticed online, which was about this. This is why I think a lot of people are going into hyper personalization on these channels. For example, if you're talking like, I think everybody now has this, I don't know if it's a myth, honestly, it's still like discussion when you're talking about a product and then you see the ad on Facebook, right? So a lot of people are now talking about this more than ever. And I think some degree of personalization is happening there, which we can take benefit of even in these times. It's not a situation where we would stop to advertise, as I was mentioning before, but just be relevant about what you're saying and not make too much of a fuss about what you do or the situation.
But maybe another question: do you believe that if firms do not have certain areas covered by technology, since this is the topic of today's webinar, do you feel that there are opportunities where deployment and actual results can be seen in weeks or months, or is this something that is that we have to wait, implement, and then maybe see results next year? I mean, are there any in terms of technology, maybe quick wins?
Yes, I would definitely agree on this. And I've seen even during these times, we actually are still doing business at Salesforce. We're still open for business. And I've managed and I'm working on projects that are being discussed and acted on as we speak. So we are talking about customers who are taking this opportunity to implement a solution to actually help them cope with this. So one of my customers, for example, in Romania, over the past, like a month and a half, they literally had to switch their entire offline operation to online only. And this was a customer that was, let's say, so just to give like the results of having this orchestrated approach for digital. So when they started, I would say 20% of their business on a monthly basis was coming from online, 80% from offline, because they had tens of stores locally, right? In 2 months of having this concentrated approach and creating relevant journeys and messaging and creating like a useful by using technology with Salesforce, of course, they went of having right now they're making 50% of what they would have done on a normal month from online alone. So basically, we're talking about more than doubling of their revenue in online, which is ensuring that they are continuing business as a company. So if you're doing this properly, this is exactly what we're talking about. It's a discussion of doing something now rather than let's see how it goes. Because in the case of, and we're talking about, for example, retail or groceries, right? There is no other time because the shops are closed. They will reopen gradually. Like every country has its own relaxation strategy, but online is definitely here, as Christian was mentioning, online is here to stay. So the discussion is how quick can you see wins? And you can set up very quickly a data model, start working with it, and you're refining as you're working with this. So I would say at this point it's clear that this is what you need to do.
Christian, maybe a quick comment from your side, because we're already
sure. Just echoing what Alex was saying, that companies need to do things now. We have to consider that this is a time when the way business is done and the way the customers are consuming the products and the services is reshuffled. And also consider that the customers, they saw and they've kind of experienced the way they can engage with the brands and the companies during these last 2 months. And even there will be a relaxation, probably in a period of time we will come back to what it was before. But this new reality and the way they saw that they can engage, this will stay. So I'm sure that we won't come back to the way customers were engaging with the brands like it was, I don't know, 3 months ago. So we have to adapt, and we have to think about this reshuffling of the way we are doing business to create loyalty to our brands.
Okay, well, maybe just the very last question to all three of you: how to protect the marketing budgets? In the widest sense, everything from media buying agency people, etc. Because we are all under pressure. How to ensure profitability, reduce costs, etc. I mean, just a quick answer. If you can comment on this.
I will say that we have to focus on activities which minimize revenue loss. So we can do it, and thanks to the technology, we have ability, to be very precise. But it doesn't mean, that your budget will be will lose something. But you can improve your efficiency. And you can show that you can bring new clients and new revenues for the company.
Okay, thanks.
I would say that.
I would just add
sorry,
one thing. Yeah, I was just saying, like, the only thing which I would add here is fail often and fail fast. So you need to try all the channels and see what works and what doesn't, as Natalia was mentioning, because even though you have the budget, you can spread it differently. Or for example, now other companies are taking their offline budget into online. So that means you can actually think about how can you channel the revenues to go towards the stream. So that would be my own things. But you need to keep trying and see what works, what audiences, what doesn't. And this is a constant fine-tuning process that you do.
Okay, Christian?
Yeah, I think Alex and Natalia said it very well. So basically, you will still have probably the same budget for marketing, or probably it will be a smaller budget, but still there is a budget. But you won't do marketing as you would consider you will do it, beginning of this year. So you definitely have to adapt and move, the part of the budget to cover the new channels, new digital channels, and to, like Alex said, to try new ways of doing more with the same budget or even diminished budget. And this is possible. This is possible with technology. It's possible with partners like Deloitte and Salesforce.
Okay, thank you. Since it's already 4 minutes past 12, I would suggest we wrap this up. Thank you everybody for attending the webinar. We are planning to have 2 follow-up webinars. One is going to be Salesforce Marketing Solutions in Action, presented by Alexander Urso, approximately in 2 weeks' time. And then we're going to have another one in June, which is going to be more related to marketing technology audit. As we have seen, a lot of the implementations of marketing technologies that happened either before or during the Corona crisis were done maybe in a way which is not appropriate anymore. And we work with a number of companies in this area to have a quick check whether everything is structured well, if the processes are well organized, etc. We would like to share this point of view as well. Again, thanks to all the attendees. We're going to share with you the materials that we have used throughout our webinar. If you have any questions or would like to have additional materials or comments, please reach out to us. And I wish you a safe and successful the rest of today. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.